if you look at the grades behind the house, they are approximately 312. So if my garage was at 338 and I'm down at 312, that's a really, really big drop. I mean,
I'm
and
gonna,
then if you say, okay, your first floor is at 338 also, and you have a 10-foot to your basement elevation, you're at 328. That means your basement floor is 12 to 14 to 16 feet higher than the grade in your backyard.
yeah, I would venture to guess that the house on Prospect has a steeper drop off in the back house, number one.
It does. And Jim, what it does,
Yeah.
what they did, Ralph, on that site is the house is upside down. The garage is the top level. You go down into the living room level, and the bedrooms are at the basement level, basically. So
Okay,
the house is upside down.
okay.
Hmm.
We could look into doing something like that.
Yeah, I think you get too many.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yep.
As far as the house on Prospect Ave, I mean, I've been by there a few times. I think it's a blue house. Like Pat just said, it's upside down. So that was one of the things Robert and I talked about before we called off, and we didn't want to go that direction. Driveway, yeah, it's a tough driveway. The reason, when you guys do go down Mountain Road and you look at it, we put it on that side of the lot, is because as you're coming down Mountain Road, that is the furthest away. If you're coming down Mountain Road going towards like off that main road of Pleasantville there, and you're going down, if you're coming up the driveway, that gives you the best opportunity to look over to see that, to have that line of view as you're coming out of the driveway.
Also
You know,
allowed us
you
a
follow.
little bit more room to sweep it around. It gave us a little bit more linear footage to deal with the slope, obviously.
I mean, we get it. Also, that was Robert who just chimed in. We're doing this project together. It's a tough lot. We tried to look at a couple houses down. We actually foiled the plans of 2 houses that were built side by side over there. I think it was 2 or 3 houses down, and we tried to mirror and almost model what they did.
Unfortunately, our slope is just a little steeper. As you go house by house, it just gets worse and worse.
It gets worse and worse. Now, there's houses all along the block there, and this is the only one that just was never developed. So we're, obviously the things in the right of way, the retaining wall in the right of way, no problem. Let's work around that. The 2 parking spots, every time I've been by the lot, there's always cars parked there, which is, I get it, it's fine. If they see construction going on and now all of a sudden, if, it's in the right of way, fine. If there's something with the town, if we put maybe some Belgian block there, we kind of make it look like parking, but it's something signed to the town that they have no responsibility if a plow hits the first 5 feet of it, which they never get that close anyway. We're willing to work with that as well.
Yeah, because what makes me think that when we say that there's people parking there today in the right of way, it's going to happen if there's a house there too, especially if it's paved.
Yes and no. I think like anything, nothing's going on there, nobody's there. Hey, if I could park here and go walk to the train, I'm gonna go do it. You know? Or all of a sudden you got somebody living there, they got a car there, they see maybe the Belgian block and it's off the road, but I understand it's still in the right of way. And then maybe it becomes a little different.
A little different how?
Well, I know
for the house, it feels like it's 2 parking spots for the house, where there's a paved driveway there. You could pass by this lot right now and honestly not even know it's a building lot. I mean, with the trees and with the, no driveway, the curb cut you could barely even see. So once the driveway's in and those parking spots are paved, it really will feel like we'll know it's part of the right of way, but the common person really won't. It really will look like 2 spots for that house.
All right, well, we've just been told that the highway department is looking to discourage that, and it would take an action of the town board. So the town board is going to be very sensitive to what the highway department wants them to do or not to do. So
But wouldn't that almost be like a precedent that's already been set? Then wouldn't they have to
Well,
go around town and kind of chop everybody down?
I don't say again.
Like if there's other people who have it set up on the
Was that
block
chop
already,
everybody down? Is that what you said? Chop everybody
like,
down?
like chop all that out.
All right, try using a different language there. I'm not
Okay.
trying to give you a tough time. I'm trying to think ahead to 25 years from now,
Okay.
when some guy who owns that property says, how in the hell, says to the town, how in the hell did you allow this? That's what we have to deal with. That's
Okay.
the precedent, if you will, that we have to deal with. Yes, there is a precedent on the street, and that precedent may wind up supporting putting in this parking. I don't know.
Okay.
We don't know. I don't know how important the town board and the highway department feels about not parking in the right of way. But I, for one, am not just going to roll over and let it happen.
No,
I'm not trying to chop
right?
anybody.
Not.
I'm not trying to chop
Okay,
anybody. I'm
not
trying to
chop.
do the right thing. This is
I
a
got you.
planning board.
Pat, I have a question for you. So these two, forget about those two parking spots down on the right of way.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
He wants to put this driveway in to get his vehicle up and parked in the garage, correct?
That's
Down.
correct.
So he
Okay.
you drop down into the site.
Right. So I don't know if this is his house or he's building it for somebody, but they know that the slopes that they have. I mean, I not for anything, but if I'm going to build this house, I really want to build this house up on top of this hill. I mean, common sense is okay. You're going to come home. You're going to drive your car up that hill into your driveway.
It's down, John. It's down
right,
the hill.
right down to that driveway. What is to us to say? I mean, common sense is you have bad weather, leave your car at home.
Yeah, I mean, that's the issue. It is about common sense. So so they're asking for your discretionary approval of a steep slope permit. And our job is to determine if it's going to be used appropriately. So frankly, common sense is I'm not driving down that hill when it's snowy, so they should have left the car in the garage to begin with.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, buyer beware, no doubt about it, John. This is America, and that's the way that works. But you're also asked to grant this approval, so you have to anticipate some of that
Right.
involves. How will people use the? So it's one of the factors you should consider.
Right.
Yes, and what worries me is 10, 15, 25 years down the road, somebody turns to us, how in the hell do you approve that?
Right. I get your point, Mike. I get your point. But again, if you're going to go spend this money or whatever it is on a house to buy it, you want to buy a house that's in a hole like that. I mean, there's plenty of houses. There's plenty of houses we have around town with driveways, especially in.
Oh, I agree.
You know what I'm
There's
saying?
no
With some
question.
driveways that are like, you could go down that driveway, you could slide into the neighbors, you could go down from Warren Avenue and end up on Willis. I mean, if you see some of those slopes that are on those driveways up there.
Right. I understand. I used to live in a house like that. And well,
I
won't
do
go into
live in
the
a house
anecdotes,
like that.
but here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to tell this guy, you got big problems. You got to fix some stuff here. I'm not sure, Jim is suggesting the bridge approach. I don't know whether that works for him or not. That's for him to answer, not for us. But what we can tell him, anybody who comes to us with this property, is that there are big issues, and those issues need to be resolved to the maximum extent that they can, so the town as a whole is served. The highway department, the town board, and who the person is that buys this piece of property. Yes, caveat emptor, but the new prospective owner may say to himself, well, they approved it, so it must be okay. Well, from Mike McLaughlin's point of view, I'm not sure it's okay.
Yeah,
I want to
and
make sure that, Jim is suggesting that you take a look at another approach to the driveway. Well, before we go and just willy-nilly approve it, let's let these guys go away and think about how you're going to resolve these problems.
Yeah, it could be a
Resolve them, not because you or me or the next guy, but because the common sense issues are that this is difficult.
and
And
I'm,
because it's difficult, it's got to demonstrate some modicum of fixing.
so, and just to be clear, I'm not, and I even said it earlier, I'm not suggesting that we do a driveway approach. What I am suggesting is
Mhm.
thinking creatively,
Yes, right.
you know,
I got it. Yeah.
think differently. And I'm because you may actually learn something from that. It may not be exactly that, but maybe something off of that. But
Mhm,
we're-
mhm,
you know,
mhm.
but to your point, Mike, is yeah, we do have a responsibility to people who do buy those houses in the future because
Mhm.
it's gonna be a beautiful day. Someone's gonna come up from the city, look at this house, say it's a
Mhm.
nice day. The driveway's perfect for us. We can deal with this, not realizing that in the winter that they're gonna be stuck.
Right.
So we have some duty or some responsibility to
Yeah.
make sure we think these things through.
Right. That's why it's called planning.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
Maybe for Pat or you guys, not to keep on the chop down, but the point of the site is wooded. That tree ordinance, is this something we should talk about with Carolyn separately, or can
That
you
was
just?
one of the comments about chopping down the trees to comply with the tree ordinance.
Yeah. What is that one I'm unfamiliar with.
Well, I think the town engineer is going to give you some
Yeah,
feedback.
Mike. So there is a tree ordinance in the town.
Okay.
One element of the tree ordinance is a reforestation plan that's based on a calculation. And there's a density factor of trees that you must comply with.
Okay.
So that relates to how many you can take down, or if you do take them down, how much you need to replant. So it's a calculation. It's called the tree density factor. And it's right in the ordinance. Ralph can do a simple calculation.
Okay.
Okay.
So that should be simple for us. Unfortunately, we'll have to take down what we have to, right? You need the envelope. So it'll just be a matter of putting it back.
With the grading that you have to do on this property, everything's coming off the site.
Yeah. I didn't want to say it like that, but yeah,
Right.
it'll just be a matter of putting it back.
Right. So you've got some reforestation to do, but that I'm sure you can work that out.
Okay.
And any other questions?
I have one. Are
Yep.
we having a site walk?
We could do that individually now or no?
Yeah, so obviously, we can't even do public hearings, public meetings by Zoom. If we're together as a board, it's a public meeting. So I would suggest we do it individually. It's much simpler, Ralph, and we don't have to notice it as a meeting of the board and so forth.
Okay, so you don't need us there.
So what I would
Uh,
suggest is.
Go ahead, Pat. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, I would say we don't need you there. I would say if there is comments that come to me, Ralph, I'll relay them to you. And if a board member needs to meet you out at the site, that can be arranged.
Okay.
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 Good.
enough.
All right. Thanks for your time.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now, I'd like to keep the board together for a little bit. Nick,
Yes.
can you, first of all, is there anybody on this meeting that wants to address this board,
Not anymore, Mike.
any issue?
Not
I don't
anymore.
think so.
We had
The only
to-
people that were in here were the presenters and Lenny and myself.
That's all that's left?
Yeah, because it was password protected, it was only the people we gave access to.
Okay.
So
All right.
at this point in time, the only people in this meeting is Lenny, and remember, we're being recorded, myself, and then the board members, Carol and Pat, and that's really it.
Okay. All right. Well, what I was going to do is, there's no reason not to put into as part of the meeting, but you can see, Nick, the kind of interaction that I was talking about that becomes really necessary at the planning board level, because we need to understand. They need to understand. There's a lot of interaction that goes back and forth. It's not going to be easy for us to handle public hearings. And I'm not sure how the town board is going to be able to handle public hearings either, because of so much interactivity. And I want this to be part of the meeting so that if anybody in the public is interested in knowing which way we're going here, I'd love to be able to support public hearings, but and I don't have any inside information that says that this virus thing is going to go away in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a month. As far as that goes, I don't know how long it's going to be. I do know that what's working sort of in our favor is that all of the economic activity has pretty much screeched to a halt. That doesn't stop developers from wanting to get themselves in a position to be able to move, and that's where the public hearings come in. But we dare not have public hearings where the public really doesn't have the opportunity to air their side of the story. So that didn't land anyplace. It's just an explanation for how difficult this is going to be. Our next meeting is the third Monday of the month.
April
I
20th.
have no hope that by that time we're going to be out of this. Maybe building a lot of pressure on public hearings.
Yes.
But I don't think it's a good idea to bring people into the courtroom to.
I think the first thing that we have to work out before understanding if we could allow the public to interact is I have to do some research on there is a feature with Zoom that's called waiting room, which basically allows us to verify and sort of authenticate people before they come into the meeting. It doesn't really make it an open meeting the way we're used to them, but it may, I can talk to Darius and see if it kind of meets criteria for us. Once I can ensure that we won't get hijacked by a bunch of bored teenagers.
Yeah, right.
And so, how they do that, by the way, is they probably saw the planning board notice out on Facebook, and it could be a teenager at home who got a hold of that link and just decided to jump in with a few friends. So it's that easy to do. So that's the first obstacle. If we can get over that, the part where a member of a resident or whatever, a member of the public wants to say something may not be all that challenging.
Okay.
Because we're not doing it by ourselves.
As long as you let them speak, which I think you normally do in your meeting. I understand there's an element of back and forth, but if you can get past the idea of stop and go, it may go smoothly. But
we'll have to learn how to do that. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take a look and see what other municipalities are doing. Just kind of curious if we could do lessons learned on who's doing what, and because I've looked at some other planning board meetings, I have nothing else to do in my life, so I do what I look at Mount Kisco specifically because I have an investment property up there, and
get a life, Jim. Get a life.
I know, and the other thing is, I think we're, to Mike, to your point, I think we're going to have to find a solution because at some point we can't go. We have to. The business of the town has to keep going. So I don't know.
Yep. Well, it has to keep going to a certain extent. As I said, the thing that's sort of working in our favor is the fact that so much economic activity has just come to a halt. Between the distancing and the closing of restaurants and everything else. So it's going to be stilted.
Nick, I will say
We'll do the best
other
we can.
communities, as Jim is indicating, Zoom is the platform of choice. Everybody seems to be using Zoom, but they do tend to curate the public participants. So I think there's a way to do that.
And my take on the meeting room, Nick, is in some municipalities, not Mount Pleasant, fortunately, you have to go through security to get into the building. Like, probably, I don't know where, some town somewhere.
Most
and Right. So if we have to have a meeting room, that's our level of security that you would have to have in some municipalities physically. So I mean, maybe that's the way to position it with the Darius,
Yes,
but
this is
you know, I
require
would,
people to sign in before they speak, so it's
Right.
nothing more than
Mhm.
that.
right.
Yeah.
You have to make, you're gonna have to make allowance for people that don't have the technology. That's another
Mhm.
problem.
That's the
Because they have a right to go to a meeting too. That's gonna be,
Mhm.
Yeah, that's always a challenge. Yeah.
And there's a whole nother platform to it, because we have been researching some towns, and Pat's right. Most of them that are doing anything online is done through Zoom, but there is Google Meetup, sometimes called Google Hangouts, which is
Yeah.
another option. I tend to like Google a little bit more because they have a little bit better security. They're a bigger outfit than Zoom is. So I can research that in the meantime. It's pretty much the same type of thing that you're seeing here, just with some little different features on the administrative end. But
What about the new Ring, Nick?
yeah,
Is that the same as this?
But the Google Hangout, I use it at work. The problem with Google Hangout is you can't mute everybody.
Mhm.
That's a problem. So
All right, well,
So, I'll definitely be doing some research. I'm going to see how we can maybe tighten up Zoom for us a little bit to avoid what happened earlier.
okay. Very good.
All right,
Thank
Let's
you.
end the meeting.
All right.
thank you.
Bye.
All right.
Thank
Night,
you.
everybody.
Right.
job.
Thank you, Nick.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Mo.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.